Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show tonight. I'm Dr. Asatar Bear. My co teacher, Leah Schaefer, will return next week. It's her birthday in a few days, so wish her a very happy birthday. And in this class, of course, we teach meditation in the lineage of Sufism, lineage of Hazrat Inayat Khan. And tonight we are talking about renewal. It's the new year after all. And here we are stepping into what is new for each one of us. What is the newness that we want to bring into our lives and experience this year? Um, Love to hear from all of you about what that is. For me, it's really being clear and intentional about where I put my time and energy, and of course, putting aside plenty of time to spend with the ones I love, um, and to advance the work that I think is important. Um, so, we're going to think about some of these themes in tonight's class. Um, Meditation, of course, can really help with this, right? Because, we all have these periods where we get stuck, we feel stale, um, we long for something to begin or something else to end, maybe, right? Um, so, we have these periods where we're looking for something new, um, and oftentimes, it's like it all comes from the self, right? Um, but oftentimes it's driven by um, fear, delusion, something like this, right? It's not rooted in the deepest part of ourselves, and so sometimes we seek renewal in strange ways, right, or ways that are unlikely to provide that. We look at the structures in our lives, and a lot of times it's the relationships in our lives, and those are often okay. We're going to find fault with that for the way that we are, right, or for the part within ourself that we're longing to change. So, of course, the problem with looking outside for whatever, right, is we have a lot less influence on the outer world than we do on the inner world, right? So we're already less likely to succeed with whatever change we're looking for, right? But even more important, right, is it's often not the case that the reason is even external. The reason is very often within us. Now, that doesn't mean that outer things never need to change. Of course not, right? We're physical beings in this physical world, right? We're here to cause changes of one kind or another. Um, so external changes are often needed, but we want to, especially when we're looking within ourselves, right? Or when we're making choices, we want to make these choices in a way that reflects our truth, and of course, this is found in your heart, right? And so, this is why we focus on the heart of meditation, why we try to bring energy there, intention there, through our focus, through our breath, and so on. So let's let's explore this theme. Um, of what we're bringing in that's new and what direction we're really seeking to go. Um, how can meditation help with this? Um, in meditation, you experience these different steps or stages of consciousness. You go through a stage where you are focusing on your individual self and your individual autonomy. Your ego, really, right? Um, and you have to really focus that, right? So the first step of meditation is to focus, uh, and you focus on something within. You know, it's going to be some kind of visualization, or in the case of kind of meditation I do, it's a focus on the physical and energetic heart, right? As a way of focusing the self, okay, and being here in the present moment, right now, right? This is also called concentration, okay? What we call being in the present moment, concentration, focusing the mind, okay? Now, a lot of times what takes us out of the moment is something from the past or some hope or fear about the future, right? So, you know, to focus on our inner selves right now, However, we got to admit, it's going to be common. Thoughts are going to come up. They're going to take us into that, right? Does that take us away from the focus? Well, not necessarily, right? Because that's the nature of thoughts to come up. Okay. The question is, are those thoughts connected, right? Are they expressing a connection with your deepest inner self? Okay. Normally, maybe not, right? What does it mean for your thoughts to be on a different track than yourself, right? Okay. So a lot of times your thoughts are not in line with your activity, right? You're doing something, but you think about something else, right? Taking you away from that activity. Okay. So how do you do this in meditation, right? Meditation is no activity, right? Your thoughts, are your thoughts not going to be about something other than sitting there doing nothing, right? I mean, there's no activity, right? There's not even external stimuli. You got your eyes closed. You're not focusing on the sounds around you. They're gonna, they're gonna enter, but you're not focusing on them, right? So there's less. There's not none, but there's less outer stimuli, right? So, well, then what happens to your thoughts, right? Well, it's not really about them. We're not focusing on thought or no thought. That's not the thing, right? The thing is always go deeper, okay? To find yourself and to find the renewal that you seek, go deeper, go within, right? So, first step is concentration, all right? Then we get into a step where it flows. Now, here's the thing about concentration, you got to be focused on something, right? So, what are we focused on? How do we know we're concentrating and when we're not, right? We're sitting here with our eyes closed. Well, we're going to focus on the breath and we are going to do specific exercises with the breath. We are going to optimize the breath. And this has a couple of good features. Since we're talking about concentration, one of them is just you're doing it, right? It's a little bit like how balancing on a wire focuses you, right? Because if you stop focusing on balancing, you fall off the wire. So you focus on your breath and you try to make your breath do something different, okay? So, part of the meditation, we're trying to make the breath be deep, slow, rhythmic, heart centered, and full. So, I'm going to go through this in the meditation. It's a lot we're asking of ourselves. We're asking ourselves to change a very fundamental and very unconscious pattern, and that is the pattern of our breathing. Okay. That's about as difficult as trying to change the way you walk, or change some kind of movement, some kind of natural movement that you do. If you're going to change that, you're going to have to really focus on it, right? Because you do it in a certain way unconsciously. And it's not going to be like that, right? It's not going to be deep, slow, rhythmic, heart center full, right? Like it's not going to, that's not your natural breathing pattern. So now at this point, you might be saying, I should do something unnatural. Why, right? should I not try to be natural? Um, yeah, we have plenty of other time for you to be natural, right? Right now, this is a time to train your breath, to optimize your breath. Okay, your breath is not naturally optimal, um, especially with we're very rarely are we at kind of a state of nature within ourselves, right? We are the product of our well, all of the influences that shape us, right? So we're not. It's not like we go to zero at any point, right? Within ourselves. Okay, so we focus on the breath. This gives us something to concentrate on. And then there comes a time where we have mastered the breath, where we get into the rhythm of this practice. Our breath becomes deep, our breath becomes slow, our breath becomes rhythmic. We're counting the beats of the heart and so on. That takes us to a different point, right? When we truly get into the flow of this, and when it doesn't become something that you have to kind of constantly focus on, right? It becomes just something you can sort of just do like this, right? You just get into it, you know. Um, Now it may take some time because, like I said, you have to become comfortable with it. Is that going to happen the very first time you meditate? No, probably not. Let me be honest, right? Now, weird things happen, and maybe you do get something really great. That also happens, right? Um, but what I'm talking about, being able to get into this flow state when it comes to your breath, it's probably going to take some practice. Okay. I'm just being honest, right? It's probably going to take some practice. Maybe it'll happen right away. I don't know, right? It's probably going to take some practice. So here I am giving you something. It's like, okay, it's hard to learn. You got to practice it. Oh my God, right? Just what I need. Another thing, right? I can relate. I can relate, right? It's just that this one pays on such great dividends, you know? It is so helpful in so many things, right? So if you say you master your breath and you master yourself, it's that simple, right? So, and how much do we need self mastery? We need it every day for everything, right? Um, so, a lot of good reasons to learn the breath that go beyond even just this particular thing, right? Um, all right. So, we're going through these different steps, right? So first we've focused the mind, focused the self. Then we've gone into this state of flow, right? And this goes a little bit beyond what we think of as the self, right? Because this you get into this flow state, everything is just flowing. You're not just, in Sufi terms, we talk about it's not the you are doing the practice. The practice becomes you. The practice is doing you. So, wow, that's something else, right? Um, this gives a different perspective, right? This allows that state of being to flow like a river, all right? Which then allows us, there's another step of integration, right? So then that allows us to broaden even further, okay? So again, we're in the flow, that's great. We're uniting our attention with the activity, and we've entered the state where there's a dynamic harmony that's occurring, okay? The next step is even more remarkable because now this extends to infinity, right? As they say in that animated movie, to infinity and beyond, like that, right? So the state of infinity, the unlimited, the infinite, the eternal. I mean, there's, we can cycle through the same words about it, right? What does it mean? It means this limitless state. Um, So it's, this is something that how do we include that in our personal being, right? All the things we know about ourselves are not, they're painfully limited, right? They're not unlimited. They're, we know ourselves as very finite beings, very limited. So what does it mean to experience the unlimited within the infinite? Well, this is the state of meditation, right? Meditation is the experience of the unlimited. And how does that feel? How do we experience that, right? This is the task that the great sages and mystics throughout the ages have tried to communicate with us, right? Through their teachings, through art, through poetry, through talking and through metaphor, and right, um, in any way that you can, um, because the experience is so incredible and so it so changes you. It so gives you perspective, right, on who you are and what is the nature of life and what is the relationship, you know? So this is the state we call meditation, okay? And if we are talking about bringing renewal, wow, one moment in this state of unity and you feel just tremendously renewed. Um, because yourself finally has a place to rest. It finally has a way that makes sense, okay? Because here's the self, right? The self, you're painfully aware of your own limitations, okay? And you're always coming up against those limitations. You're always striving for something, always longing for something, right? This is you know it's the beauty of the self, and it's also the difficulty of the self, the pain of that, right? What we our longing is never fulfilled. Our striving never ends, right? Because our development can continue, right? We are longing to grow. And what is this, right? This is the limited longing to realize and express the unlimited nature. That's our real selves, our inner selves, our souls, right? Beyond the matter and beyond the physical. Okay. So now, oh, well, you're asking me to take a lot on faith right now, right? That we have souls, that we have. Don't believe me? No. I mean, of course, I'm not the only one who says this, right? I mean, there's a long tradition of mystics talking about this inner being, this inner spirit that we have. But should you believe in that? Should you go by that? No, don't go by anything, right? Try to experience, try to open yourself to the experience, and then see what you believe in, right? I'm not asking you to come in with a lot of beliefs. In fact, try to hold those beliefs lightly, all right? And be open to what is the experience, because beliefs are always limited, right? Beliefs are a concept. The experience is way beyond concepts. So, all right. Well, I think I've talked enough about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And let's go into the meditation then, shall we? So, to do that, we will adopt good upright posture. I've already got a pretty good chair here that I'm sitting in, and trying to sit in a way that allows your spine to be upright and yet relaxed. So, feeling the sits bones taking the weight of your body into your chair or whatever surface you're sitting on. And then feeling that the very top of your head is being suspended as if by a thread from above. So that even though you're straight, it's like you're being lifted. You're not leaning too far forward and you're not leaning too far back. Your head is perfectly balanced atop your spine. And now you begin to really focus on the breath. We go through our lives and we become stressed, and the breath is high in the body, tends to go up into our chest. So we need to reverse this. And we do that by really opening the belly as we breathe. So, really focusing on deep breathing, okay? Breathe in and allow your belly to expand. Breathe out and your belly contracts, belly button moving in slightly. And you just focus your attention on this deep breathing. And you can even take your hand and just place it on your belly, just so that you can be reminded that this is where you're breathing, that you can feel your belly rising and falling with the movement of your breath. Now, we would also like to make the breath slow. So we can do that by extending the exhalation, breathing out more than at first, breathing out more, but not faster. So if you're breathing out more, then your breath is going to take longer on the exhalation. And then when you turn around and inhale, of course, there's more space and you can breathe in more and keep the breath controlled. So it's slower. It's both slow and deep. And you may notice that this is a much different pattern of work for your abdominal muscles than it is normally. And if you forget about it, just like bouncing on a wire, if you forget to breathe in this manner, you can just notice, oh, did I forget about the breathing? Well, let me remember about it and get back to it. No judgment, please. No need to get mad at yourself. It happens. Aren't you lucky you have then a mechanism, a way you can tell when your mind wandered? Well, what's happening to your breathing? Is it deep and slow? All right, we would also like to make the breath heart centered and rhythmic. And we can do this at the same time. We can do this by bringing together our two great inner rhythms, and that is the heartbeat and the breath. Now, to do this requires that you feel your heart beating. Something that some of us can do. Maybe half the people that I've taught this to over the years can do this, and the other half cannot. So if you can, if you're one of those who can, then you feel your heart beating and breathe in for the same number of beats as you breathe out. You might start with 4 beats in, 4 beats out, but if you really work on this practice over time, I'd like you to get to 8. 8 beats in, 8 beats out. I would like you to be able to do that. But you start wherever you are now. Now, if you can't feel your heartbeat, you have a couple of different options. One is you can place one hand or maybe even both hands on your chest. And sometimes just the pressure of your hands will bring it out. And you might start feeling that beat. You might feel it in your chest, or maybe you feel it in your hands because now your hands have a little bit of pressure on them. And that maybe makes them a little bit more sensitive to the pulse. So, whether you feel the heartbeat in your chest or the pulse in somewhere else in your body doesn't really matter. Okay. You're just looking for the beat just so that you can synchronize. Okay. Now, if that doesn't work, you can also lightly press on your breastbone with your fingers. You can even hold on, feel the pulse on your wrist like this, right? Try to do it in a way that's comfortable. Keep your hand resting in your lap so that it's not up in the air like this, right? But um, and that's another option for you. And if this fails to, you just count and imagine what your heartbeat, what you think it might be. You're probably not too far off. And over time, if you listen and practice, you will feel it. Okay, so now we have brought together the two great inner rhythms, the breath and the heartbeat. And the next step in making it really heart centered is to bring in that emotional component. Because the heart is more than just this thing that beats and pumps our blood and so on. The heart, metaphorically and energetically, is the center of our feelings and our emotional life and our values and our ideals, things that really matter to us. That's all found in the heart. And the Sufis say the heart is the vessel which brings together the light of the spirit, the soul, and also the body and the mind. The heart is the master center, brings these different sides of the human being together. And your heart as an energetic thing, as a feeling part of you, gives and receives. And so we focus on the rhythm of giving and receiving. Receiving on the inhalation, we receive energy, life, revitalization, renewal. And on the exhalation, we give out, we express, we discard that which we do not need. We radiate our unique energy out into the world. So we are seeking to make these two kinds of energy, the giving and receiving, to bring them into balance. And often this is really what we need when it comes to renewal. Often what we need is simply balance. I mean, what is it that we so often need to renew? I don't know about you all, but I feel exhausted. Right? And a lot of times we get to a break, like we just had one, and I feel just utterly exhausted, right? So what is happening? The energy that flows out of me is greater than the energy that flows in. I need to revitalize. I need more energy in. Perfect time to really choose, well, what are the ways that you are expressing energy? And let us be selective about those. let's maybe discontinue some of those, maybe just for now. Maybe some of them we will discontinue for longer. And now, the final step of working with the breath here is to make the breath full. And this means to make the breath much bigger and more powerful than it's been thus far. And to do that, we must really engage the abdominal muscles as we breathe out. We must, not only are we making the breath slow now, but now we're really squeezing all the abdominal muscles. All the whole breathing apparatus is contracting so that we can then breathe in more. Our breath becomes bigger, higher, literally higher in volume, but it's still very slow and very controlled. The breath is not allowed to become jagged or rapid or interrupted. Try to make it as smooth and even flowing as you can. Now, for a while, doing all the things that I've asked you to do is going to be very difficult. It's like learning how to ride a bike. You first learn how to ride a bike, it takes all of your focus to ride the bike. But pretty soon you can do other things, right? So, this is what we want, right? We want to be able to master this rhythm, this practice, so that then we can occupy our minds again with specific versions of this practice, right? That focus on certain energies that we need right now. So we have hundreds of ways of customizing this practice to meet your unique needs. And this, of course, is the point of working with a teacher. Your teacher is the one who customizes, helps you actually, right? Helps you customize your meditation practice. Now, it's a role that requires knowledge. It requires trust on the part of the student. Are you going to do what the teacher suggests? It's a question, right? So, I think these days as a teacher, you work with trying to see the why, right? This is why I think this would be good for you to do. So, in this sense, what we're doing now, we're really just working on the basics, right? If you're going to study Harvard meditation, study Sufism, you study with a teacher, and your teacher gives you practices, which you then do, and then your teacher checks on you to see what is the effect on you. So, this is really the inner laboratory you're learning about here. All right, now as you use the breath, focus on all of the energies and situations. Might be within you, it might be externally, but think about the things that you would like to move beyond, things that you feel are obstacles, that are boundaries, that you would like to be able to get beyond. They are obstacles to your growth, to your development. So, focus on those things, and as you exhale, feel these things dropping away, the obstacles melting away. You feel yourself rising above them. You feel yourself outlasting them. These are all different kinds of energy, of course, and different tactics, but just working in a fundamental way, whichever of those appeals to you, working in your breath and just with the exhalation, moving beyond your limitations. And often, this exhaling, this really brings that sense of renewal because there's always these things holding us back, right? Maybe it's within ourselves, maybe it's outside ourselves, and usually it's a combination. And then, as you focus on the inhalation, you bring in that sense of inspiration. Inspiration, that's another word for breath. Breathing in, you literally gain new energy, new perspective, a renewed sense of what's possible, a renewed faith in yourself, a renewed clarity of vision. All of these come from that inhalation. Inhale, breathing in, revitalizing. Exhale, casting away, melting away, moving beyond the obstacles that hold you back. Now, if you've moved into this state of flow, which you might not have, you may be really struggling with this practice. And if so, that's okay. That is what's right for you in this moment. If you have moved into this flow, you just sink into the reality that flow is unlimited, that the revitalization, the inspiration that happens as you breathe in is completely limitless. It is eternal. It has always been and will always be. Just that thought alone is enough to send our mind into a kind of confusion. Our minds cannot grasp the infinite because all the mind knows is limited. You allow the limitations of the mind to fall away. Your mind cannot conceive of the infinite, but your spirit can experience the infinite because your spirit is the infinite. Your spirit is that ocean which you are diving into. And when you do that, a part of yourself can finally open, can finally relax, can finally say, ah, yes, this is home. This is me. This is who I truly am. An infinite, perfect, unlimited being. Having an experience of limitation, having an experience of time, of space, of individuality. We are both the limited and the unlimited. And as we move into this state of the unlimited, what is this? This is a state of unity. And the Sufis perceive this as a being, as the one being. That is God. Any word that we use is, of course, too limited. Even the word God. So words do, they trap reality into constructs, into sounds. The truth is so much bigger than that. Truth cannot be fit into words. Spirit cannot be fit into words. And yet spirit flows through everything. Spirit is in everything. If you've gone with me on this expanded journey, it's time to bring that energy back down into narrower confines of what you know to be yourself. So you bring it in. You become conscious of that spark of divinity within. Rather than becoming an all encompassing, blinding light, it becomes a tiny little spark, a little jewel that you could carry in your pocket, that you could remember the truth about your own being. And remember that truth whenever you need it. And when you're ready, you come back to the space and we end our meditation here. Mm. The self is so much bigger than what we know. You know, we think of ourselves in such limited ways, and of course, how we think about ourselves is a lot of how we are. We are not aware of how deep the well goes. We do not know what's there, and so part of meditation is an exploration, right? And in this, you see, this is to get back to that earlier thing about thoughts, right? This is why the focus on thoughts is so limited. You know, um, thoughts are a signal, right? But a thought does not mean by itself that we're off track, right? Um, so let's say you're focusing on an activity, right? And you might have a thought nonetheless, right? It might be a thought about how you can do that activity just a little bit better. I mean, I do this. I like to box. I like to do martial arts. So I'm constantly thinking, I'll be very much in the flow of, whatever the activity is. I might have done a shot on a heavy bag, let's say, but I'm just always thinking about, like, well, how could I just do that shot maybe just a little bit better, um, a little bit faster, a little bit harder, better energy, crisper, better angle, different angle, stuff like this, right? So these are not taking me away from the activity, right? These are putting me deeper into it, right? So here we are doing this meditation on revitalization, renewal. Well, let's say we start having thoughts about that, right? What is that? That is very good. That's not. I don't say to myself, "Oh, damn it, my monkey mind. I'm thinking too much." No, I say that's an inspired thought. That's a thought that connects me to my spirit. That connects my thinking faculties, right? My mind with my heart, my soul, and my spirit, right? Helping me to understand, to see a part of that, to make a part of that real, right? To allow that to come through. So, like, we want that, right? We want that thought. We want that thought that's full of inspiration and meaning, right? We wouldn't want to miss that, you know? Like, if we didn't want that, you know what we could have? We could have deep sleep that we have every single night, right? What is deep sleep? Deep sleep is an unconscious experience of unity. So, but the problem with it is we don't know what's happening, right? You know, but it's very refreshing, right? We could come out of it and we're like, oh my God, what a relief, Um, deep sleep, of course, is the time when your body, really like relaxes, and your immune system, and all of your internal functions get to, like, really proceed unimpeded. Okay, it's the light sleep. Light sleep is where we do a lot of our processing. Anyway, right? So both of these things have analogs in meditation, right? We have these meditations experiences that are so deep. It feels like we're having, like, one thought an hour or something like this, right? Like, that happens. But then we have the equivalent of light sleep, like a rapid eye movement type of sleep, right? This is where you dream. So you have this in meditation too. Your eyes are not literally moving around like this, right? But, like, you have thoughts, but they're inspired thoughts. You have insight into your life, and the lives of those you care about, right? That's important stuff. We don't want to miss that stuff. So we don't want to put down the thinking faculties, right? That's important, right? Life would be a lot more difficult if we did not have that ability. So what we want it is to connect it. That's the problem, right? The problem is the mind goes off on its own, right? The mind thinks is in charge. The mind proceeds without an understanding of the heart, without an understanding of the soul, without a sense of why we are really here, right? That's where things become difficult. That's where it feels like the mind becomes like a cruel tyrant, right? So the Sufis say the mind is an excellent servant, but the mind is a poor master. Okay, because the mind doesn't really know, right? Doesn't really know where to go. Tell me where to go, I'll take you there. That's the mind. Great servant, right? So here's the route. I figured it out. Um, But tell me where to go. Oh, geez, I don't know. There's so many different ways we could go. There's so many different places we could go, right? Yeah, but what really matters to you? Well, your mind doesn't have the answer to that. You know, your heart has the answer to that. So you got to go within. Okay. So, and now I've described a lot of like out there stuff today, So maybe this is all comprehensible, maybe not, But even if you just get part of it, right? If you just learned, hey, if I breathe deeply and my belly moves, that's going to be relaxing. Yes, absolutely. Great takeaway. You know, any part of this that you can take and use, then I'm very happy. Um, maybe it's a thought that I said, right? Maybe it's maybe it's something that helps you see things a different way. Whatever it is, because this is what we do. We collect the gems we find along the way, right? To help us on our way. Um, all right, so um, thank you all for joining me tonight. We're going to end the class, and if you'd like to support, please go to the Patreon page. Leah will be back next week, so we'll have more discussion at that point. And until then, keep on meditating, and Happy New Year. Take care, everyone.